evening. At this time, I'd like to call the order the regular meeting and strategic planning for the Lincoln District 210 Board of Education for Thursday, December 19, 2019. Please stand for the pledge as you are able. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Ms. Janice Doyle. Mr. Kirking.
Here.
Mr. Lacine.
Here.
Mr. Luchetti.
Here.
Mrs. Stokes. Here. Mr. Cotter.
Here. As a matter of housekeeping, I'd like to appoint Mr. Kirking, Secretary Pro Temp for the evening, Ms. Janice Doyle being absent. I see we have no one signed up for public comments. That being said, we can move on to the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the regular meeting minutes of November 21st, 2019, approval of the payroll for December 5th, 2019. Is there anyone with anything pulled from the consent agenda for discussion? With that, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
And a motion to have a second.
Second.
Open the vote, please.
The vote is open. Mrs. Stokes? Aye? Or,
I got it. It just popped up.
I'm sorry, you were no. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on. Action items. Presentation of invoices for November 22nd, 2019 through December 19th, 2019.
Motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $2,408,458.61 dated December 19, 2019.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Kirk with the second. And any discussion? Thank you. You open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on. Treasurer's reports.
For November 30th ending, the district received just over $2.9 million in revenues, while we expended.
Press the top of the button, top button.
Buttons on the break. How about that?
There you go.
Okay, sorry. For November 30th, the district received just over $2.9 million in revenue, while we expended just over $9 million in expenditures, bringing us with a total cash balance of $28.7 million to end the month of November. I will say, for the cash flow, this is probably the worst projection I made on a month-to-month basis since I've been here. And a couple of things. I was off on the transportation and the state aid. I did some more research. We should anticipate getting another payment in January. So I've adjusted that on the cash flow. But then the biggest thing on the variances was two things really on the expenditure side. I had missed to pick up on the stipends, fall stipends that were paid out. While we have that covered in the budget, this is just a cash flow. And then we had expenditures for our final capital projects being paid out too. So I wasn't anticipating those bills getting in, even though in the prior years that was accounted for in our segregated fund, so it wasn't part of our operating. But anyway, all that being said, $1.9 million variance. We're still, though, I double checked all the numbers in the cash flow, updated several things, and we're still on target to not need tax anticipation warrants until February. So we're good from that perspective. Cash to date, as compared to last November, we're 5.7 million to the good. If you remember, we were about 6 something last month, so it diminished just slightly, but we're still running that good amount ahead. As far as turning for the budget to actuals, revenue's looking strong, everything's looking great there with one exception, and I think people have known this out of the chute practically. But I'm just gonna say it now, interest income is trending below and is going to be. We'll probably be 33,000 under the estimated budget is what my estimate is. But all the other revenue is looking strong and in the right place. As far as expenditures, we're trending 1% below our trend. That's to do with lower salaries and supplies. Benefits are trending, as we've talked, slightly ahead, but that's just because we're gonna take that we actually did, we just did it this month, that 1 month premium holiday. So when we have our December year-end report, that should bring that back into line right where we expect, but expenditures are looking good. With that, I'd entertain questions.
You said those stipends are covered in the budget, so this is something that's going to impact.
Yeah, so we had them budgeted, it's just a matter of where I had them scheduled in the cash flow. And so that was the problem.
Yeah, it's
So
scheduled later in the year.
Exactly. So I confirmed with payroll, double checked, so we have 2 more stipend dates, March and June, I believe.
Yes.
Anyway. So I made sure we have those scheduled correctly. It was just strictly how I had them scheduled on a month-to-month basis, not the overall, so.
But in the cash flow, you just adjusted it where it's already in
Right.
cash flow. The only one I was gonna ask about was in expenditures, the tuition dues and fees look a little bit slower than in past years. Is that just a timing issue?
Yes, actually, so last year we had paid some additional things. This year, we're on target. We're actually looking a little tight. This is one area that I'm gonna be watching closely. We're just some early indication that we could be a little tight on our special ed outplacement tuition, not 843, but the other private placement. So we're watching that closely. I'll take a closer look at that in January after we finish 6 months and confirm where we're at. But yeah, on the trend, it looks like we're doing awesome, but that's because last year we had some different things happening over there. So that's the only on the expenditures. We're watching that one closely.
You said for the MCAS, this, I wasn't miscalculated, but you just.
On the MCAS?
Yeah.
Right, so the MCAS, mandatory categorical aids from the state of Illinois. I had initially thought we were going to be getting another payment before the end of this semester. I researched that with Springfield, and it looks like probably have one coming out in January. So I moved it from the end of the semester into January. We still have budgeted, and in the cash flow, we're planning for 3 payments for this fiscal year, knowing that most likely we'll make the 4th payment in August or September, which will fall into our next fiscal year. So we've accounted for the fact that we think they're only gonna pay 3.
That's kind of where I was going. Right.
It doesn't affect the schedule of our, which is
Right.
obviously the most important aspect.
No, we don't usually ask questions on this one, but the business now account at Old Second Bank, is that just a money market account? It's just the rate looks high for what we're earning, not that I'm complaining.
So, what we have with them is we basically have the first 300,000 that we keep with them is used to offset fees, and then anything over that, we do earn this rate, and they just have been gracious enough to only adjusting it down periodically. So right now, we're in that little sweet spot where they haven't adjusted it down. So we're continuing to let the money earn, you know.
further, I'd entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Motion on a second.
Second.
A second, you open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, student activities for November.
Your packet materials is the November student activity account summary. One account negative $22.76. That's been since corrected. So overall, pretty good month for us. Once again, that was a timing issue with fundraising, and it is now in the positive.
Any discussion regarding the student activities report? With that, I entertain a motion to approve the student activities report as presented.
So moved.
A motion, to have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, personnel. Rob.
Okay, I'm gonna change up the order because it'll help make more sense a little bit for the employment side, so we'll do resignations first. Under resignations, we have Olivia Blaney, paraprofessional, Amy Caldwell, assistant boys soccer coach, Kevin Conley, media center assistant, Dave Ernst, head boys football coach, Lincoln Way West, Sean Fahey, head boys soccer coach, Lincoln Way Central, Ryan Foster, paraprofessional, Ryan Foster as well as a assistant boys soccer coach at Central, Amanda Grady, paraprofessional, Joe Keene, maintenance department, Crystal Torres, bus driver, and Connie Yopel, assistant girls swim and dive coach. I ask the board to approve these resignations as presented.
And a motion to approve the resignations.
So moved.
Motion to have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, you open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Employment. Under employment, we have Heather Bax, paraprofessional, Janae Christopher, bus driver, Kimberly Garcia, media center assistant, Jason Howling, athletic director, Lincoln Way Central, Jessica Hoag, bus driver, Mary Labdo Jazlowski, food service, Luke Lokink, head football coach, Lincoln Way West, Jacqueline Sutter-Kabowski, food service, Lincoln Way Central, Gene Williams, bus driver, and Mark Zook, bus driver. I ask the board to approve the appointment report as presented.
A motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Open the vote.
Sorry, Jason, this is a permanent position?
That will be starting next year, yes. He was assigned as an interim this year. We opened it up. Dr. Provost and Mr. Schiffbauer conducted interviews, and Jason's offered the position pending board approval.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Retirements.
Retirements, we have Sharon Leonard, math teacher, asking to retire June 30th of 2024. Karen McConnell, English teacher, asking to retire June 30th of 2024. James Mundy, bus driver, November 25th, 2019. Jamie O'Connor, English teacher, asking to retire June 30th, 2024. John O'Connor, JROTC instructor, asking to retire June 30th of 2024. Tracy Plessick, mathematics department chair, asking to retire June 30th of 2024. Nancy Sargis, media center assistant, asking to retire June 30th of 2022. And Bridget Shear, reading department chair, asking to retire June 30th of 2024. I ask the board to approve these retirements as presented.
A motion.
So moved.
A motion and a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Real quick, for those of you who may not be aware, our teacher contract, they have until the 31st of December to declare 4 years out for the retirement. That's why we see this spike now. We anticipate a few more letters between now and December 31st. Currently, we're about 7 or 8 for 2024, and we could be 10 or 11 by the end of January. So there may be more names we'll bring forward and then that goes into Brad's planning process on the salary document. But just so everyone's aware, they have until the close of this month to notify Rob or myself of their intent to retire.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Thank you. If you open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, school maintenance project for a road program for $50,000.
All right, thank you for entertaining this. So we just got notice from the Illinois State Board of Education that these grants were going to become available. The application period began a couple of days ago and closes on February 14th. What was a little bit of a surprise was that it requires board action to actually apply for the grant. So with that being said, whenever you're looking to use grant monies, we're looking to do something that we were already planning to do instead of coming up with a new project. We were planning to do this work here. What we're proposing to write into the grant was to replace the internal fire doors here at Lincoln Way East. They've been identified in our life, health, safety by our architects that they would need to be replaced. So they were on our 2021 capital improvement projects. The only tricky part about this whole thing I'm going to ask you about, and that is, we're going to need to pull them back and get them done this year to start the project. We won't do the whole project. We'll just do $100,000 this year. We'll then get our $50,000 back, and the other $50,000 will be left in the 2021 budget. So it's really just a timing for us, but basically, we're receiving about 17% funding on the entire project, or $50,000 on the first 100. So administration would work to try to keep that O&M budget within its bounds, kind of squeak it out somewhere else, but worst case scenario, if we couldn't, we may have to come back and amend the budget, but we definitely don't want to see this $50,000 go unclaimed. And by doing a health, life, safety project, that is a second tier funding. So I can't imagine with $44 million up for grabs, I think we have a great shot at claiming this money. So I'd like to move ahead and get that grant in ASAP.
And there will be likely a second round with unclaimed monies, because they've earmarked every district receiving the $50,000. Those that don't complete the process will then go back in, and districts will have a second opportunity. Brad was ready to hit submit when he realized we first needed board approval. So it was completed and ready to go this week. I'm sure it'll be finished tomorrow.
So would that second round apply to this these fire doors?
We would have to bring it back to the board again.
Or would that have to be a separate project?
No, we would be able to.
$50,000
Yes,
for
correct.
one project?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Something, yeah.
Well, right.
Would it still have to be done in this fiscal year then?
Yeah, that's the
So we're
only
gonna
hitch
find
about-
out in March, or probably have to
Yeah,
get it done
that's-
by June?
Yeah, that's the only thing that really is disappointing, is the planning horizon they give us. Really, this should be released for a 21 grant, that would make the sense, but, hey.
We can hustle a little bit.
That's a good argument, Brad.
We can all hustle a little bit to get that extra
22,
$50,000.
21, whatever it takes.
All right, with that, I entertain a motion to propose and apply for this grant.
So moved.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? You open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Moving on, AP final exam exemptions.
Dr. Ferrier, please provide an overview.
So the proposal is to exempt any and all students who take an AP exam, which take place in the first 2 weeks of May, to be exempt from their second semester final exam in that corresponding AP course. The rationale is that the AP exam actually serves as a student's summative assessment for that course, and by then giving them a final exam just a few weeks after that, we're essentially double testing our students. Our teachers have been kind of asking about this and talking about this for a while. They submitted via a survey that I gave to all of our AP exam, or all of our AP teachers, all of the different more constructive, creative things that they could do with those final weeks in their courses, as opposed to just reviewing for yet another exam for the students. Our District 210 advisory team took a look at this first semester. They discussed it. They are in support of that as well. Beth made sure that I would express that tonight to let you know that as well. You can see how many students it would affect. You can see how many exams would be exempt. We are asking that the exemption take place immediately so that these students that are in the AP courses right here and now could take advantage of this for second semester. We are not requesting this to happen for first semester finals, not even next year, let alone tomorrow. Exactly. But not first. The theory with that, or the idea behind that, is that first semester, if they are single semester courses, actually taking that first semester is in time to practice for that AP exam in second semester. And then the last piece, students could choose to take the final exam. Let's say if their grade was borderline or something and they thought it would be beneficial, they could choose to take the final exam and not take the exemption.
Is this common practice in a lot of other districts, or has this been done in other places?
It is. I also surveyed, I'm part of a curriculum group both in the south suburbs and curriculum area, or Chicagoland area curriculum directors, and this is more common than not common. Everyone with the same kind of philosophy. The other piece too that some of our teachers expressed in the survey was this would allow students to then focus on their other final exams and ultimately possibly even reduce stress around final exam time for these students as well. So that's another positive.
Question, so the grade that they have going into finals is the grade, their final grade, is that what happens?
That is correct. It would be measured as, instead of an 80-20 within 20% of the final exam, it would be a 100%.
And so going into the actual semester, they know that ahead of time?
Correct.
Okay.
When would they have to make their election on whether or not they want to, like you said, those kids that are on the board, when would they have to make their election as to when they would, whether or not they want to take that final?
They would know that probably a week prior, just the same that we do with our seniors who are kind of vying for their senior exemption. It'd be a week prior to their finals. There would be a measurement date, and then they could determine whether they want to do it or not.
What percentage of the AP students take the AP test?
Oh, good question. Around 80%.
It was over 70, it was well over 70 last year. That's something over the last 3 years has grown each year. Brian, you got that off the top of your head?
It's about 75% is really what it was now too.
I rounded up.
When is the AP exam administered?
It is the first 2 weeks of May.
So is it during school?
It is. Yes. We basically, students come out of the regular classes when those exams are scheduled. It's a nationally scheduled exam. So we don't have any say on what test is given on what day or at what time. When they're announced, then the students are they come out of their classes to take those exams at those times. The registration for the exams have already taken place. However, students could still sign up with notice of this if all of a sudden they want to take the final, or take the AP exam instead of the final per se. There is still time to register.
Any further questions for Dr. Foley? With that, I entertain a motion to approve the final exam exemption as proposed.
So moved.
A motion and a second. We open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
policy, second reading.
Included in your backup materials are the superintendent's notes and the policies as we discussed last time, when you go from Republican governor to a Democratic governor, quite a few policies. This is the largest press issue in the last 5 years. However, the administrative team, myself, we've gone through the policies. They do match with what we currently do with the exception of one. And that would be the opiate antagonist. Our nurses currently do not dispense. Our deputies do. With board approval of this tonight, that's something that we would provide training and then the resources for our nurses, given that if a student were under the influence, we would provide that antagonist, Narcan, yeah, to stop that attack. As I said, our deputies do carry it. They would likely be the first ones on scene and likely administer it, but this has been recommended by the board attorney, and so that would be the only change that, in many districts already have that in place.
So is that change that the nurse would do it in addition to or instead of the SRO?
Whoever gets there first, Joe. It's the SROs, I think all Will County deputies now carry, I know ours do, and they'll just administer immediately.
Just wanted to make sure that they wouldn't be the first to arrive and then they didn't
Not
wait
do
for
it,
the
yeah,
nurse.
no, not at all, not at all.
I remember the nurses, there was apprehension of that before a lot that they didn't want it.
There was, but now, you know, this was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and unfortunately with the evolution of how many more times this has been administered, they're perfecting it. The drug has continued to evolve with what they're dealing with, and I think it's time that we at least put that in place as a potential safeguard. Potentially save a life.
So is it just, would it be just the nurses then?
Yes, at this point.
What's the training they have to go to?
It won't be much more than doing something online. They don't have to go to an official training to be able to administer it, Chris. It's just their willingness to do it. We would provide, if they want it, if we want to bring a doctor in to do a quick seminar with them, we would. But the biggest thing for us is to go and get the subscription as a district and be able to fill that prescription. That's the biggest thing.
Cost or liability with that?
None. It would be covered as a Good Samaritan type law, you know.
So when you said I'm assuming Izzo is recommending, what's he recommending?
Well,
Exactly.
because it's now passed in state as it's a law, but yet again, these are press policies. We are providing it through our SROs, who we have an intergovernmental agreement with, but he believes we would be well within our right and to be safe to go ahead and have our nurses do it as well. Because it's been reissued. So this is a reissue of the prior. This is also part of the drug-free workplace and the opiate workplace. And then also, if you're reading in here, allowing students who have the prescription to take medical marijuana during school. These are all new policies that all passed here in the last 3 months down in Springfield. So that's just been rewritten as a safeguard in those policies. And we are still a drug-free workplace. We've been asked, what does this mean for employees? This does not apply to employees. Employees, whether they have a prescription or not, we are a drug-free workplace. We would not change those rules. That would have to be done by the board, but it's nothing we would recommend at this time.
The liability of the nurses aren't carrying it if it's going to be a directive.
Potentially. As you said, we do have it in the building. However, this is another safeguard. We're going to see what other districts are doing in terms of administrators, but right now we would start with our 3 nurses.
Are the nurses limited to giving this to just students, or if there were events or other visitors?
It's a great question, Joe. I'd have to get an answer on that. I don't know what the liability. Yeah, I don't know what the liability would be. I'll have to get the answer on that. That's a really good question. That's a good question. Because I know in terms of students, if we're trying to do what we think is right, there's our cord to cut.
Any further discussion? With that, I entertain a motion to pass the second reading as presented.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. If you'd open the vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, school calendar.
Second reading of the school calendar for the 2020-2021 school year is in your backup materials. If there aren't any questions, the administration would recommend passing the school calendar as presented.
Anything changed from last month?
No.
Just curious.
And this does align with our grade schools. There was some spirited debate over the winter break. I lost. And so we take the 2 full weeks in December and then spring break, because of where we anticipate testing, we will be able to go an entire week plus the Monday, and then testing we anticipate on April 14th for the SAT for spring of 21.
No further discussion. I entertain a motion to approve the school calendar for 2020-2021 as presented. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If you would open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, informational items. Lincoln Way Special Education District 843 Governing Board meeting on November 26th.
Mrs. Stokes, was there anything particular that you would like to report? I believe that was your first meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Anything?
So there was a spirited discussion in respect to McKay closing. And so, but we've tabled a number of those items in respect to that. Basically, there's just a report out of the fact that the school, that we're moving the students to Lincoln Way Central. And so a number of the board members on 843 was the first time that they had heard of that. So there are some concerns, and so I can bring those up later, but there was no vote in respect to that. It was just brought to the table. Otherwise, they're in compliance with the new takedown rules that have come out, unfortunately, and everybody is a part of it. As a result of that, there is going to be an investigator that will meet with the director on the day after Christmas on the 26th, just for about an hour to look at the timeout room to make sure that it meets the criteria. The biggest issue is that with the new rules that have come out is that the time it is taking the staff and how it's taking, it's requiring them to take a great deal of time to actually document and to implement the new rules. That's taking them away from the students at the same time. So unfortunately, because there have been some reports of some bad incidents, everybody has been brought into this new compliance. And so they're adhering to it, but it is taking a great deal of time from staff members that are there.
Thank you. FOIA requests.
Included in your backup materials are the latest FOIA requests. I believe there were, let's see, 4.
Let's see. All right, moving on, building and grounds.
Building and grounds in your backup materials. If you have any questions, I know Mr. Wilkie is here.
Anybody have anything for Rich? Community relations.
Also included in your backup materials for your review.
Asset of the month.
Asset of the month for January is perseverance. A young person understands the effort required to do something and keep doing it, even if it's difficult. Don't show your support when children take on a challenge and at school, demonstrate skills related to achieving personal and academic goals, help students develop coping skills, bouncing back from setbacks, and dealing with disappointment. We asked that for January.
District 210 Advisory, Beth isn't here.
Yeah, nothing new to it.
Anything from legislative report?
Nothing at this time.
Superintendent's report.
Included in the superintendent's report is the Moody's Investment Service, their rating action, and then also their press release from last year. We were upgraded to Baa2 from Baa3, so that's 2 upgrades in the last 4 months. And I want to congratulate the board and business department on fine work and their diligence as we continue to improve our standing. We did speak today with an underwriter for our bonds who expressed that this will not only impact the selling price of the bonds positively, but also the insurance of those bonds. So she said that's a double win, being able to get that move. Going in, we were hoping to at least get the positive outlook, but they went one better and moved us up a grade. So all of the scenarios that we saw presented from PMA had the assumption of a little lower grade and also assumption of a little bit different interest rates from what we're seeing now. So we will go to market, I believe, January 7th, Brett, is that when we're going? January 7th, and be able to report back to the board in January how that sale went. But cautiously optimistic, and this was certainly good news and moving in the right direction.
Excellent. Any other district business or correspondence?
Nothing additional to report.
Well, what a fantastic segue with that Moody's upgrade to go into strategic planning.
Yes. Yeah. So we will take about a 4 or 5 minute break, and then Dr. Madoni, you're on.